Hello students, welcome to ABBHS Digital Classroom. Standard 9th Geography. Lesson number 6, The Properties of Seawater, Part 2. Students, in the last video we have seen the properties of the seawater. The properties of seawater are the temperature, salinity and density. So, previous video we have seen the temperature and the salinity of the seawater. Now we are going to study the density. Let's revise the temperature. The surface temperature of the seawater decreases from the equator towards the poles. That is, the distribution is latitudinal. As we go towards the poles, towards the North Pole and towards the South Pole, the temperature goes on decreasing. Then there is a buoyancy of the seawater. Now what is the buoyancy? Buoyancy means the power of a liquid to keep something afloat. We know if anything falls on the water, it floats. Now here you can see a leaf that is floating on the water. Here there is an image showing a wooden block. When it is immersed in water, it goes down and again it comes up. That is, the water puts a thrust, an upthrust towards the surface and tends to keep the things floating. Now this buoyancy of seawater increases because of the salinity. What is salinity? We have studied earlier. The salinity is the proportion of salt present in 1000 grams of water. So as the salinity increases, the buoyancy also increases. And how this is helpful for us? This is useful for the water transportation. Now let us study the density. Here you can see two pictures. In the first one, the molecules are tightly closed. These are tightly packed. Whereas in the second, they are loose. So the density is a measure of how tightly packed and how heavy the molecules are in an object. It is the amount of matter within a certain volume, and its unit, or it is measured in grams per cubic centimeter or kilograms per cubic meter. Now we will study the density of the seawater. Now the temperature and salinity. These are the two properties of the seawater that control the density of the seawater. So the seawater, the density depends on the salinity and the temperature. Whether the density is low or high, it depends, or it is controlled by the temperature and the salinity. If the temperature reduces, density of water increases. Cold water is denser and so is saline water. So cold water as well as saline water are more dense than the warm water and the less saline water. Comparing to salinity, temperature affects the density more. Hence, sometimes more saline water, means the more salty water, if the temperature is low at the surface, is less dense. But still the density of such water is more than the other water. That is, if the temperature is low and the water is saline, the density is lower than the other water. On the contrary, the seawater having higher temperature and low salinity can have low density. Now we will study this with the help of a graph. Here in this image, in the first image, you will find the temperature and the depth. The temperature of the seawater. At the surface, where the temperature is around 22 degrees Celsius, As we go deep down into the ocean, as the intensity of the sun rays goes on decreasing, the temperature also goes on decreasing. Around the depth of 2005 meters and below that, around 2000 meters and below that, the temperature remains uniform up to the bed of the ocean. Then the second graph shows the salinity per 1000 grams. Now where the surface salinity is 35.5 per 1000. As you go deep inside the sea, the salinity also goes on decreasing, and at a certain point around 2500 meters below that, it goes on becoming uniform till the bed of the ocean. Now we'll see the density that is shown in grams per cubic centimeter. Now here if you see the density at the surface, here you will find the density at the surface is 1.035. As you go on deep inside the water, as we go deep into the sea, as the depth increases, see what happens to the density. Gradually it goes on increasing. As we go below 1000 meters, the density is constant. It is uniform up till the bed of the ocean. That means as we go deeper into the sea, as the depth increases, the density also increases. The ocean currents. Due to this density of the sea water, the ocean currents are formed. The warm water has low salinity and density. Such water comes to the surface of the sea, and the cold water with high density goes down. This movement causes the deep sea water currents. Students, we have studied the ocean currents in Standard 8th. Here you can see the warm ocean current with a red arrow, whereas the cold ocean current with a blue arrow. The ocean currents are generated because of difference in the properties of seawater. They act as temperature controllers at the global level. The distribution of temperature gets controlled due to the ocean currents. Thus, the climate of the earth gets affected by the ocean currents. And all these are an impact of the density, the salinity and the temperature of the seawater. Now, if you want to study the ocean, here we have studied only the properties of the seawater. Before that, in the 8th standard, you have studied the ocean currents and the ocean floor. Now, how is this study important and where you can study more about the ocean? The study of the ocean is called as oceanography. The oceanographers can work in various fields ranging from conservation of the ocean to the oil industry. As you know, the oil is extracted from below the ocean crust. A good place for an eligible oceanographer is to start from a bachelor's degree and a relevant work experience in a particular field. The demand for job arises from the need for environmental protection and water management. So you can study about this oceanography. Now, how can you make oceanography as a career? So as an activity, you are going to search oceanography as a career and write down the points in your notebook. Tomorrow you will get the next video, you will get the question answers. Till then, stay home, stay safe. Thank you. Have a nice day.